Here's to grassroots sustainable, grassroots sustainable, grassroots sustainable, practical future. Here's to grassroots sustainable, grassroots sustainable, grassroots sustainable, practical futures. Here's to grassroots sustainable, practical futures, yeah. Here's to grassroots sustainable, practical futures, yeah.
Well, I realised something really had to change when I was away in the UK. I was helping run a software business, doing 3 contracts on my own at the same time, you know, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, bolt upright, shaking because of the stress and the adrenaline and everything else that was going on. I mean, there has to be a different way of doing things. And we saw this house and went, oh, it's made of wood, it's got a field next to it, there's options to doing this and that, yes. Yeah. And that's when we really decided that we were going to go for this, you know, as a full-time occupation in effect, because that's what it's turned out to be. You know, growing vegetables, growing fruit, having space for the children to play, being aware of their environment, giving them something in the future that they can be involved with as well.
Co-housing in a city with plants on the roof, allotments round the corner and speaking your truth. Here's to grassroots sustainable, practical futures, yeah.
There's some really big challenges that we face in Jersey globally, but it's going to affect us even more. We're dependent on importing food. So we're dependent on other people having spare food, and we're dependent on oil and transport for getting it here. Climate change, there's not much we can do to deal with the consequences. We don't have the infrastructure to do that, and it's going to affect what we grow, pests and diseases, sea level rises, peak oil affects everything, manufacturing of goods, production of food because of artificial fertilizers and nitrates and so on. So all of these things are going to impact our lives, our community and our island. There's your ancestor. Yeah, it smells like garlic too. Of your wild garlic, of your domesticated garlic. That's quite a big bowl for wild garlic. Don't cook it though. It destroys the flavour. We use far more resources than we possibly produce. We've become used to that dependency, and we don't have ways of living that are independent, that are self-sustaining to some extent, and we have to realise that those resources that we're importing are getting rarer. They're getting harder to acquire. So we have to learn to do things on our own.
Here's to gathering wild food. Here's to making a living. Here's to living a making. Here's to sharing with people you meet.
There are things that we can do, growing food organically that doesn't use pesticides that made from oil, doesn't use fertilisers made from oil products, where you save your own seed so you don't go picking seed, and you can have varieties that are adapted to your local climate, and that when the climate does change they can change with it because the seed grows with it and so on. Things like reducing our energy dependence so that we don't have to use the oil. Lots of different things that add up to a whole way of doing things that just mean it's more integrated, it's friendlier on the ecosystem, and it doesn't depend on the outside world.
And it's nice that we can get rid of our waste. So all the waste vegetable and tea bags and everything go in there and go to the compost. Any edible things that are suitable for the hens go to them. So some vegetables off your plate that haven't been eaten, and I don't know, stuff like breadcrumbs and so on can go to them. So there isn't really very much that gets thrown in the bin.
I'll try cross-sprinkling with carrots, I suppose. Sugar.
Do begin.
And partly what I'm doing here is for myself, but also to some extent to show other people it is possible to do some of these things. You don't have to be on that treadmill. There is a way of going another direction that's beneficial to the environment, that's secure in terms of the sort of challenges we're facing in the future about oil dependency, climate change and all those things that are going to affect lifestyles. And this sort of lifestyle is much more sustainable and tolerant of those impacts.
Here's to walking in forests. Here's to dancing in streets. Here's to sitting round campfires. Here's to working it out for yourself.
If we collectively don't make this transition, the prognosis is bad. Material isn't going to be there, food's going to be in short supply, medicines, who knows, and so on. We can make small steps to begin with, and we need to educate ourselves and to move collectively in a way, but individually make our own contributions down this path, because we have no choice. It's a timescale issue. How soon? Not whether. How soon?
Here's to working it out for yourself. Here's to working it out for yourself. Here's to grassroots sustainable practical futures, yeah. Here's to working it out for yourself. Here's to grassroots sustainable practical futures, yeah.